Hi, I'm Kirk Ryan, and today I'll be taking you through how to enable dynamic storage provisioning with Azure Kubernetes Service. We'll be doing this today with Azure NetApp Files and the Trident plugin provided by NetApp. Now, if you don't know why you'd want to be using Azure NetApp Files in the first place, it's Microsoft's first-party NFS SMB service that offers unparalleled low latency, high throughput. So it's great for enterprise applications and use cases where responsiveness may be critical to your user experience. Now, one of the other great things about Trident is it allows you to take advantage of ANF's capability to take instant restore points. So you can ensure that the data, which is of course separated at this instance to your applications, is always going to be protected against corruption or malware, and in the worst event of it being corrupted or locked down, that you can restore in a matter of seconds. Now, to get started, the very first thing we need to do to enable Trident is to create a service principal that Trident can take advantage of to be able to provision all the resources it needs. So whether that's the NFS volumes of Azure NetApp Files or some of the networking associated with that. And we can do that very easily using the Bash PowerShell, the Bash Cloud Terminal that's in Azure itself. And as you can see on screen, I'm creating a roles-based access control SP here, so service principal called Trident, that's got the role of contributor. And just for the purposes of this demonstration, I'll be using it with the default scope, which is everything under my default subscription. Now, of course, if you're doing this in production, you'd want to lock down your scopes to the certain environments or certain projects or spokes that you're deploying your resources underneath. So the next thing we do, now that we've created a service principal that Trident can take advantage of, is to be able to actually set our Cloud Shell or our terminal to the right context of our AKS service. So you can see here I've got an AKS service that's already up and running. It's just here. I can see some of the details. And to do that, we run an Azure AKS get credentials, and you just feed in the resource group and the cluster name. Once you've run that, you should get a response saying that there you go, it's now the current context. Now, that's great. It being the current context means that I should be able to get information on the nodes themselves. So if we have a look at something like a kubectl get nodes, then you should see that your nodes are in a ready state. And there we go. So they're now in a ready state. We're good to continue. So at this point, you want to go over to netapp-trident.readthedocs.io and get yourself onto the deployment section. Now, with AKS, you're pretty much qualified already. So you can start at step 2, which is download and extract the installer itself. Now, you'll see I'm at version 1.17, so I'm simply going to follow these instructions for 1.14 and above. But before any of that, I've got to make sure that I install the latest version here. Now, one thing to bear in mind actually is at time of recording, and the docs need slightly updating, is that there is a newer version available. So I can just simply change this .1, this 0 with a .1, and I'll have the latest and greatest version that's available. So at time of recording, 20.01.1 is the latest version. Now that that's installed, what we're going to do as well is then obviously untar that. So let's go and grab our command here. Pop that in here. And again, just remember that if you are using the latest version like me, then change that command to the .1. Otherwise, you'll get a file not found. Once that's untarred, then we're going to go to cd Trident, and it will be installer, and you can tab auto that. So there we go. And if you look in here, you can see there's a few files. Most notably, there's a Trident control file there, or cutl. So at this point, we're then going to follow the next bit of the instructions, and you can see here we can install Trident into its desired namespace. That means it works across the entire cluster. So with that, we're going to just run Trident control, and if you press tab, it should go to a dot. Let's have a look, / Trident cutl install -n, and then this namespace can be anything you choose. Obviously it makes sense for us in this demonstration to just call it Trident, and we run that there. What this is going to do is actually run the installer to install Trident directly into your AKS cluster. You can see here it's very verbose in the information. It gives you a lot of information about when it starts the installation. It's creating the service accounts and the roles and everything it needs to be able to go and do what it needs to do dynamic provisioning. So this really helps take the management overhead and the operational overhead out of deploying enterprise-grade NFS with Azure Kubernetes Service when you're doing AKS clustering. And there we go. So Trident's now installed. That's succeeded. And the very next thing you'll have to do, if you watch part 2 of this video, is to configure some of your storage classes. But that concludes this part. You're installed, it's running, and you're ready to use Azure Kubernetes Services with Azure NetApp files.